The modern human brain often resembles a web browser with an overwhelming number of tabs open, one of which is invariably playing loud, distracting circus music. It's a common sensation in a world saturated with information and stimuli. Yet, a surprising revelation awaits. Some of the most effective strategies for managing this internal chaos, the ultimate life hacks, weren't conceived in the high-tech hubs of Silicon Valley. Instead, they originated with thinkers in togas, approximately 2 millennia ago. The contemporary resurgence of these ancient philosophies, particularly among psychotherapists and even tech innovators, points to a deeper societal yearning. It appears that, as modern solutions often prove superficial, many are turning to time-tested wisdom for more substantial answers to enduring anxieties. As people actively seek foundational knowledge in an era of rapid and often disorienting change, the unexpected relevance of these old ideas in today's world forms the core of an unfolding exploration into their potential to reshape contemporary life. Welcome, seekers of truth, warriors against anxiety, and all individuals who have, at some point, desperately searched online for instructions on how to adult. This exploration is not a dry academic lecture designed to cure insomnia, but a lively raid on the tomb of ancient philosophy, aiming to unearth its most valuable and life-altering treasures. The focus is on ancient wisdom that offers practical guidance for navigating the complex, often chaotic, landscape of modern existence. Consider these ancient philosophies as a 2,000-year-old software update for the human brain. The journey ahead will delve into how these early thinkers addressed the original versions of today's most persistent challenges: stress, the search for purpose, and the art of dealing with difficult people, even those who communicate through passive-aggressive, office stationery. These philosophical systems were not mere theoretical constructs. They were intended as practical guides to living well. Stoicism, for instance, was viewed as a form of spiritual gymnastics, while Epicurus imparted his teachings through communal living and simple meals, and Socrates engaged in real-world dialogues to stimulate critical thought. The modern application of these principles in fields like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and personal coaching underscores their enduring practical value. This return to ancient wisdom is not just an intellectual curiosity, but a rediscovery of philosophy as a lived practice, making these concepts immediately more appealing and less daunting. The reality of being human in the 21st century is undeniably demanding. Individuals are constantly bombarded with information, facing societal expectations to achieve career milestones by a young age, maintain flawless social media presences, and exhibit the emotional fortitude of highly trained operatives, all while grappling with everyday trivialities like forgotten passwords. There's an abundance of choices, yet a pervasive hunger for meaning. While technology offers applications for nearly every conceivable task, a solution for how to stop existential dread at 3 a.m. remains elusive. The job market often feels like a high-stakes competition with frequent eliminations, and social media platforms can resemble curated highlight reels of others' seemingly perfect lives, starkly contrasting with one's own mundane struggles, like finding a matching pair of socks. This pervasive sense of being stressed, anxious, somewhat lost, or perpetually engaged in an exhausting, unchosen race is not an isolated experience. It is a common undercurrent of modern life. Remarkably, individuals from 2,000 years ago experienced similar fundamental anxieties. While they may not have contended with Netflix password dilemmas, the significant core human challenges were indeed familiar to them. We live in an age of unprecedented connectivity, yet feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and a deficit of purpose are widespread. This paradox highlights a modern challenge: a lack of genuine connection and meaning despite a plethora of superficial interactions. Ancient philosophies, with their emphasis on community and understanding one's place within the larger societal or cosmic order, offer pathways back to more authentic self-understanding and communal bonds. If the sensation of being a hamster on an elaborately decorated but ultimately unfulfilling wheel has become tiresome, perhaps it is time to consider some old-school solutions to these contemporary problems. The first philosophical school on this tour is Stoicism. It is important to distinguish capital S Stoicism from the common adjective Stoic, which often describes someone who suppresses or shows no emotion. Ancient Stoicism, in contrast, was a dynamic philosophy, akin to the ancient world's special forces training for mental toughness. Prominent figures include Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who documented his philosophical reflections during times of plague and war, Seneca, a renowned playwright and political advisor well acquainted with life's dramas, and Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of history's most influential philosophers. A cornerstone of Stoic thought is the dichotomy of control. This principle can be illustrated using the analogy of an archer. An archer preparing to shoot an arrow can control several factors: their stance, their aim, their breathing, and even whether they remembered to wear appropriate attire for the occasion. However, other elements remain beyond their control. A sudden gust of wind, an errant squirrel darting across the range, or the target unexpectedly deciding it has other commitments. The Stoic approach advises focusing one's energy on the aspects within one's control, the preparation and the act of shooting, while accepting the influence of external, uncontrollable factors like the wind and the squirrel. Translated into modern scenarios, this means that while one cannot control a supervisor's unpredictable moods, one can control one's own response, perhaps by cultivating a calm demeanor while internally strategizing. Similarly, one cannot prevent the influx of hundreds of emails, but one can choose to mute notifications after work hours. This isn't about passivity, it's about the strategic allocation of mental and emotional energy. A common misconception is that Stoics were emotionless automatons. In truth, Stoicism does not advocate for the elimination of emotions, but rather for their understanding and management. The goal is to become an emotion tamer, not to use an emotion begone spray. Seneca wisely observed, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." It is our judgments about events, not the events themselves, that typically cause distress. A practical Stoic exercise is the premeditation of evils, premeditatio malorum. While it might sound somber, it's a technique for cultivating gratitude and resilience. For instance, imagine the internet connection failing during a critical online presentation. By contemplating this potential setback, when the Wi-Fi functions smoothly, the appreciation for its reliability is significantly enhanced. Next, the exploration turns to Epicurus and Epicureanism. Epicurus is often humorously and inaccurately depicted as an ancient Greek counterpart to a modern-day party enthusiast perpetually surrounded by indulgence. However, the reality of Epicurean philosophy is quite different. It is not primarily about unrestrained hedonism, but about achieving ataraxia, a Greek term signifying a state of profound tranquility and freedom from disturbance, essentially chill mode activated. Epicurus taught that true pleasure is not found in the relentless pursuit of fleeting highs, such as accumulating more wealth, gaining more social media followers, or indulging in increasingly extravagant material goods. Instead, it lies in appreciating what one already possesses, cultivating meaningful friendships, a cornerstone of his philosophy, and actively working to minimize pain and fear. This approach favors the joy of missing out, JOMO, on stress-inducing pursuits over the fear-driven, you only live once, YOLO mentality. Epicurus even formulated a 4-part cure for unhappiness, known as the tetrapharmakos. Don't fear God. The divine beings, if they exist, are likely unconcerned with human affairs and are not a source of punishment to be feared. Don't worry about death. Since death is the cessation of sensation, it is not something to be experienced with dread. When death arrives, the individual no longer exists to perceive it. What's good is easy to get. True sources of pleasure, such as good company, the enjoyment of nature, or a simple meal are readily accessible, unlike the pursuit of luxury. Epicurus himself famously requested a little pot of cheese so that when I like I may fare sumptuously. What's terrible is easy to endure. Pain and suffering, while unpleasant, are often temporary or manageable, and humans possess an inherent capacity for endurance. These ancient philosophies, both Stoicism with its focus on internal control and simple living, and Epicureanism with its emphasis on natural and necessary desires for tranquility, offer a path to well-being that is strikingly simpler than many complex, often commercialized, modern wellness trends. This inherent simplicity provides a potent antidote to contemporary overwhelm, challenging the notion that happiness requires constant striving or elaborate interventions. Finally, the discussion turns to Socrates, the quintessential philosopher, renowned for the declaration, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." This sentiment, while profound, also serves as a rather convenient justification for everyday forgetfulness, such as misplacing one's keys. Socrates did not disseminate his philosophy through written texts or formal lectures. Instead, he engaged individuals in the marketplaces of Athens, posing questions until they experienced a moment of insight, or, at times, profound confusion. This method of inquiry is known as the Socratic method. He described himself as an intellectual midwife, assisting others in giving birth to their own inherent ideas and understanding. The practical application of the Socratic method extends beyond ancient Athenian dialogues about abstract concepts like justice. In modern life, it manifests when individuals question their own ingrained habits. Why do I repeatedly open the refrigerator when I'm bored? Or challenge prevalent assumptions. Is it truly the case that everyone on social media is wealthier and happier? This internal dialogue, this questioning of one's own thoughts and the information received, is the Socratic method at work. It is fundamentally about cultivating critical thinking and refusing to accept notions, whether external or internal, at face value. Having explored these ancient philosophies with a blend of humor and learning, a pivotal understanding emerges. Despite their distinct approaches, Stoicism, Epicureanism, and the Socratic method converge on a profound, life-altering truth. Individuals possess far more internal power than they often realize. The contemporary world frequently bombards people with messages suggesting that happiness is contingent upon acquiring more possessions, more external validation, and more followers. Happiness is often portrayed as dependent on external factors, the opinions of others, career advancements, or even the perfect ripeness of an avocado. However, these ancient thinkers offer a counter-narrative. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who wielded immense worldly power, confided in his personal journal, not for public acclaim, but for his own guidance, a timeless piece of wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This statement warrants deep reflection. The source of strength and well-being lies not in job titles, bank balances, social media metrics, or even perfectly cultivated hobbies, but within one's own mind. The Stoics provided methodologies for fortifying this inner realm. Epicurus illuminated the path to finding peace within it by simplifying desires and conquering fears. Socrates furnished the tools for questioning and understanding the thoughts that can disturb this inner peace. When life presents its inevitable challenges, a critical presentation interrupted by a Wi-Fi outage, a long-anticipated vacation marred by inclement weather, or the familiar pang of inadequacy when observing someone else's curated online persona, this central tenet offers a powerful recourse. The true endeavor is not to control or change the external world, but to master the internal one. This is not merely ancient philosophy. It is a fundamental human capacity, a veritable superpower. The common thread weaving through these diverse ancient schools of thought is the cultivation of an internal locus of control. By focusing on one's own judgments, actions, desires, and self-knowledge, individuals can achieve a form of freedom and resilience that is not dependent on the unpredictable nature of external circumstances. This is a potent challenge to modern society's often externalized measures of success and happiness. In summary, ancient philosophy is far from being a mere historical relic. It is an astonishingly relevant and practical toolkit for navigating, and indeed thriving in, the complexities of contemporary life. The Stoics can be envisioned as mental bodyguards, guiding individuals to focus on what lies within their control, such as their responses to online negativity, rather than the negativity itself. Epicurus serves as a guide to genuine joy, offering the reminder that the most valuable aspects of life are often not material possessions, and that the warmth of true friendship surpasses any superficial luxury. Socrates, then, is that brilliant, perhaps slightly exasperating, friend who persistently asks, "But why?" until individuals arrive at their own understanding. The objective is not to achieve instantaneous transformation into a flawless, unperturbable sage. Rather, it is to engage with these ancient ideas, to experiment with them. Ultimately, living a good life is less about possessing all the answers and more about posing the right questions and understanding where to locate one's inner strength. Which of these ancient philosophical approaches resonated most profoundly? Is there a particular modern challenge that seems ripe for an ancient philosophical smackdown? Share these thoughts and any witty remarks in the comments section below. Let this space become a vibrant, modern-day agora for discussion and shared wisdom. This kind of engagement, asking specific questions and fostering a sense of community, tends to be more effective than generic prompts, encouraging a deeper connection with the content and the channel. For those whose minds are now buzzing with philosophical curiosity and a desire for more, hit that subscribe button and explore the next video on. Thank you for joining this exploration, wise ones.